The conference room buzzed with chatter as I glanced at my phone. The screen lit up with an incoming call. Ryan. I stepped into the hallway, expecting the usual small talk. Hey, how's your trip? When are you coming home? But instead, his voice came through cold and smug. I'm divorcing you, he said. And I've already sold the house. You'll need to figure out where you're going to live. Enjoy that. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The audacity, the complete lack of remorse. It was almost laughable. My grip tightened around the phone. You sold the house? I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady. Yeah, Ryan replied with a dry chuckle. Mia and I need the money to start fresh. She deserves better than that tiny place anyway. Mia. The name stung. I had suspected for months that there was someone else. His late nights, the sudden work trips, the growing distance between us. But hearing him say her name so casually, as if I were the intruder in their life, lit a fire in my chest. Sounds good, I replied evenly, refusing to give him the satisfaction of hearing me break. My name is Emily, and up until that phone call, I thought I had married a man I could trust. For 6 years, Ryan and I had built a life together. It hadn't always been perfect, but I believed in our partnership. We had worked hard to buy our house, a cozy 2-bedroom home in Seattle, the kind of place I had dreamed of since I was a kid. It wasn't just a house. It was our foundation. Or at least, that's what I thought. Looking back, the signs had been there. The small cracks I had ignored. Ryan's dismissive attitude whenever I asked about finances. The way he brushed off my concerns with a charming smile and a quick kiss. I had assumed his confidence came from knowing what he was doing. Now I realized, it came from knowing he could manipulate me. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Meetings. Nods. Smiles. My mind was racing. Ryan thought he had one. That he had blindsided me. That he could sell my home and walk away without consequences. But there was one thing he didn't know. The house had been in my name alone for months. We had refinanced earlier that year, and since my credit was better, the lender had suggested putting the deed in my name to get a lower interest rate. Ryan, never one to care about the details, had signed the paperwork without a second glance. His carelessness was about to be his downfall. That night, as I sat in my hotel room, my shock turned into something else, determination. If Ryan wanted a fight, fine. But this was a fight I was going to win. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. Instead, I picked up my phone and dialed the one person I knew would help me handle this the right way. My best friend and lawyer, Olivia. She answered on the second ring. Hey Em, how's the trip? Change of plans, I said, my voice tight. Ryan just called. He's divorcing me, and he thinks he sold the house. There was a pause. Then, Olivia's voice turned sharp. He thinks he sold the house? Yeah, but the deed is in my name. He never read the paperwork when we refinanced. A slow chuckle came through the line. Wow, he really screwed himself, didn't he? Looks that way. All right, first things first. We notify the buyer that the sale is invalid. Then, we draft a formal letter for Ryan, outlining the consequences of his little stunt. If he's already taken any money from the buyer, he's on the hook for fraud. The word, fraud, sent a jolt of satisfaction through me. What do I need to do? I asked. Fly home. I'll have everything ready by the time you land. For the first time since Ryan's call, I felt calm. He thought he had backed me into a corner, that I was powerless, that I'd crumble. But in reality, he had just set himself up for the ultimate humiliation, and I was going to make sure he felt every second of it. The flight back to Seattle gave me too much time to think. Ryan's arrogance was astounding. He hadn't even tried to hide his betrayal. He had laughed, as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience on his way to his shiny new life with Mia. But instead of drowning in anger, I focused on what I'd do when I landed. Ryan thought I was powerless. He didn't realize I'd been playing the long game without even knowing it. The moment I stepped off the plane, I called Olivia. I'm back. What's the next step? Already taken care of, she said. We notified the buyer this morning. They're furious. Turns out they'd already started making plans to move in. But since the sale isn't legal, they're cooperating with us. And Ryan? I sent him a formal letter outlining the illegality of what he did, the consequences, and, oh yeah, potential fraud charges. Has he responded? Not yet. But if I had to guess, he's about to explode. I smirked. Good. Let him stew. By the time I reached the house, the sun was setting. Everything looked the same, yet different. The place didn't feel like home anymore. Not with the betrayal hanging in the air. I had just set my suitcase down when the front door slammed open. Ryan stormed in, his face red with fury, a crumpled piece of paper in his fist. What the hell is this? He shouted, waving Olivia's letter in my face. You're telling me I can't sell the house? It's half mine. I crossed my arms, keeping my voice calm. No, Ryan. It's not. The deed has been in my name for months. You can't sell something you don't own. He froze. His expression flickered between confusion and rage. What are you talking about? I walked over to the kitchen counter, grabbed a folder, and held up the deed for him to see. After we refinanced, I had the deed transferred to my name. You signed off on it. Or did you just skim the paperwork, like you always do? For a moment, he said nothing. Then, his face twisted into a sneer. You think you're so smart, don't you? This doesn't change anything. I already made a deal, and you're going to look like a fool when it all falls apart. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. The sale is already void, Ryan. The buyer knows it. And if you've spent a single cent of that deposit, you're in even bigger trouble. His confidence wavered. You don't know what you're talking about, he muttered, avoiding my gaze. I let out a small laugh. Oh, but I do. You spent years treating me like I was too naive to notice what you were doing. But guess what, Ryan? I've been paying attention. And now? Now, you get to deal with the consequences. Silence. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. And I relished it. Ryan started pacing, running a hand through his hair, his frustration mounting. This is ridiculous. You're blowing everything out of proportion. You can't just kick me out of here. I raised an eyebrow. Actually, I can. This house is legally mine. You can stay for now, but only because I'm giving you the courtesy of time to figure out your next move. But let me be clear, I'm not going anywhere. His jaw clenched. I could see the gears turning in his head, trying to find a way to twist the situation in his favor. Then, as if on cue, the front door swung open again, and in walked Mia. She looked around with a smug smile, her arm looped through Ryan's. So this is where we're staying? She said, her voice dripping with entitlement. I let out a short laugh. No. This is where Ryan was staying. You, Mia? You're not staying here at all. Her smile faltered. She glanced at Ryan, who suddenly looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. What is this? He demanded. I crossed my arms. This? I gestured around the house. This is my home. Not yours. Not hers. And certainly not some hotel for you to shack up in after trying to screw me over. Mia's expression turned icy, but she didn't say anything. Ryan, on the other hand, looked like he was about to explode. You can't do this. He shouted. You're being unreasonable. I met his gaze, unflinching. No, Ryan. What's unreasonable is thinking you could sell my home, walk away with the money, and expect me to just roll over and take it. You're lucky I haven't filed criminal charges. Yet. Mia looked between us, her perfectly manicured hand tightening around her purse strap. Wait, what is she talking about? She asked, her tone sharp. You said this was your house. That you sold it. Ryan flinched. It's complicated. I'll handle it. Oh, it's not complicated, I said, stepping closer. Ryan tried to sell this house behind my back, thinking he could pocket the money and leave me with nothing. What he didn't know is that I had the deed transferred to my name months ago. So not only did he fail to sell it, but he also committed fraud by pretending he could. Mia's mouth opened, then closed. like a fish gasping for air. Fraud? She whispered. She took a step away from him. Are you serious? Yes, fraud. I crossed my arms. And I'm prepared to press charges if he doesn't get his things and leave by the end of the day. For the first time since he walked in, Ryan looked genuinely panicked. You can't do this, Emily, he said, his voice pleading now. We've been together for 6 years. You can't just throw me out. I tilted my head. You threw me out the moment you made that phone call, Ryan. You told me you were divorcing me and laughed about me having to find a new place to live. You didn't just betray me, you tried to ruin me. So don't stand there and act like you're the victim. Mia took another step back. Her eyes darted between us, realization dawning on her face. This is insane, she muttered. You didn't tell me any of this, Ryan. You said you had everything handled. He turned to her, desperation written all over his face. Mia, I can fix this. I just need. She raised a hand, cutting him off. Don't. Just don't. I'm not getting dragged into your mess. Without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed out. The door slammed shut behind her. I smiled. Looks like you're on your own, Ryan. His shoulders slumped. His face was pale. And I wasn't done yet. Ryan sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. Emily, please. I screwed up, I know that. But you don't have to do this. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Oh, but I do. I grabbed a folder from the kitchen counter and tossed it onto the coffee table in front of him. This is the divorce paperwork. My lawyer already drafted it. I suggest you sign it quickly. The sooner you do, the sooner we can both move on. He stared at the folder like it was a bomb about to detonate. You really hate me that much? I exhaled sharply. I don't hate you, Ryan. I pity you. You had everything. A woman who loved you. A home we built together. A life. And you threw it all away because you were too selfish to see past your own ego. I straightened my posture. My heart was pounding, but my voice was unwavering. I want you out by the end of the day. Take your things and figure out where you're going to stay. This is the last time I'm giving you any grace. His mouth opened like he wanted to argue. But then, he saw the look on my face. The certainty, the finality. His shoulders slumped. Fine, he muttered. I'll go. Good. I walked toward the door, then turned back. And don't even think about trying anything else. Olivia's handling everything, and the next time you cross a line, I won't hesitate to let the courts handle it. He stood slowly, grabbing his coat. He didn't look at me as he walked out, his footsteps heavy with defeat. The moment the door clicked shut behind him, I locked it. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. That evening, my best friend Olivia came over with takeout and a bottle of wine. So, he's really gone? She asked, flopping onto my couch. Gone and not coming back, I confirmed, pouring 2 glasses of wine. I gave him until the end of the day to pack his things. He didn't even argue. Olivia grinned. To fresh starts and well-deserved victories. I clinked my glass against hers, feeling the weight of the past week slowly lift. To never letting someone walk all over me again. Over the next few days, I reclaimed the house, piece by piece. I rearranged the furniture, moved my favorite artwork into the living room, and filled the space with things that made me happy. It wasn't just for decorating. It was reclaiming my life. Ryan tried to reach out a few times. His messages ranged from half-hearted apologies to pathetic attempts at guilt-tripping me. I made a mistake. Can't we at least talk about this? You're going to ruin me, Emily. Is that what you want? I didn't reply. For once, I wasn't wasting my energy trying to fix something that was broken beyond repair. By the end of the week, the house felt different, brighter, lighter, mine. And by the end of the month, the divorce was finalized. No grand showdown, no emotional pleas, just a clean break. One evening, while sorting through old papers, I came across a photo of Ryan and me from years ago. We looked happy, arms around each other, full of hope. I stared at it for a moment, then slipped it into an envelope and tucked it into a drawer. I wasn't ready to throw it away, but I wasn't keeping it out either. It was a part of my past, but it didn't define me anymore. That night, Olivia and I celebrated my freedom at a rooftop bar downtown. She raised her cocktail. You're glowing, Im. Single life suits you. I laughed. It's not about being single. It's about being free. We toasted to that, and as I looked out over the city lights, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Peace. Ryan had been so certain he had won when he made that phone call. So smug. So sure of himself. And yet, here I was. Happy. Free. Thriving. And he was nothing more than a bad memory.